Hey everybody, welcome to Worldbuilders Podcast. I'm your host, Jackson McLennan, and on today's episode, we're going to be exploring the immersive world of role-playing through one of my favorite games of all time, Dungeons and Dragons. For those that do not know, Dungeons and Dragons is an immersive role-playing game where players sit around a table and act out certain scenarios as fictional characters. One of the players, named the Dungeon Master, uses math and dice to dictate whether a player succeeds or fails in their endeavors. In my pursuit to find people to talk to about this amazing game, I came across a podcast from the United States called Teenagers and Troublemakers. What stood out to me the most about this podcast was the fact that they use comics and animations to make their podcast world more immersive. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to learn more about the group, I provided links to their Patreon and their podcast in the description below. And if you're feeling supportive, like good old Samwise, then please subscribe and turn on the notifications so you can be notified of any other interviews coming forward. But now it is time for us to pack our saddlebags, leave the Shire behind, because as the over-enthusiastic Bilbo Baggins once said, "I'm going on an adventure!" Can you guys hear me okay? Is this mic too close or?
It's good.
All good? Okay, cool. Okay, so nice to meet you guys.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, I was telling everyone before, I was kind of before this, I was kind of fanning a bit because I was listening to the podcast like right before this, and I was like, oh my god, I don't know what to talk to them. But no, it's great to meet you guys. You guys have a really great podcast. To be honest, it's really enjoyable to listen to.
Thank you.
And I think like D&D for me is like humor is one of the best parts about D&D, right? And like sitting around and like listening to your guys' sense of humor, like versus like me and my friends who play like just like every table has a different kind of like, you know, running joke or whatever, or like roasting a specific person for doing something that, you know, they always do. Every party has that, right? So yeah, it's very, very great. Before I talk to you guys, I'll tell you guys a bit about myself, just so you guys know, you know, what I'm doing here and stuff. So I grew up in Toronto, and I went to an arts high school, and I ended up graduating for film. So I got really into writing for film and doing storyboarding and stuff like that. Kind of like similar, storyboarding and comics are actually very similar in a sense, but just designing scenes. Then I started playing D&D with friends, and that's when I just fell in love with D&D completely. And I started DMing, and my friends were like, hey man, like your stories are so much fun, you should start writing this stuff down. So I started writing just like fantasy fiction, just, you know, having fun with it. And I ended up going to college for creative and professional writing after that. So one of the ideas I had with this like Worldbuilders thing was kind of to try and expand beyond like my own writing and my own world and just kind of see what other people were doing and what other stories were being told. And so I just went on Instagram and just started, you know, looking around, and actually that's how I found you guys. And I love the name. The Teenagers and Troublemakers stood out too, because I feel like a lot of D&D podcasts kind of have like very serious names with like sometimes with words you don't even know, and just like, you know, the party of this or something. So Teenagers and Troublemakers, it was just like, that was great. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm doing Worldbuilders to kind of just like show people, you know, this creative side of what world building is and like what just gaming is in general, even with writing and like even just like poetry and stuff, right? Like it's all these different artistic crafts come from just pure creativity, and that's what I love. So yeah, that's what I'm doing with this. But tell me about you guys. So I guess let's start with Dylan, and we'll go around. Just tell me who you are and why you like D&D, and yeah.
My name is Dylan, and I think I started playing D&D when I don't know when I started playing it, but I played it because Dad he brung up the idea, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll play it. And I played it with Trinity, and I played it with my brother, but he didn't want to be in the podcast. Yeah. I played with Trinity and Dad,
and Malcolm too.
And Malcolm, yeah, I played with them. And then I just started playing the game and stuff. Like, I don't know. I like using it because I like using my imagination sometimes. That's why I like playing it. You know.
No, I feel you, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Some people think is this rare to see like a lot of like athlete playing D&D? Is that weird?
It is. I wouldn't say it's completely rare, but yeah,
Like stereotypically, yeah.
Yeah, that's a social norm. But you guys know Critical Role, obviously. Do you guys know about Jox Machina?
I think I heard of him.
I'm the only one who really watches Critical Role.
Okay, fair enough. So there's a sub kind of like podcast. They've only done a couple episodes, but it's Travis Willingham, who's one of the players, but he's a very big
He's
guy.
a buff. He used to play football, yeah.
Yeah, but he plays D&D with like wrestlers and athletes and like boxers, and they're called Jox Machina. So you check that out.
I mean, even Acquisitions Incorporated had that one like professional like WWE player, yeah.
I think it's Big Show. I think his name is.
Big Show.
The one that I saw was all I know is he kept calling himself Cheesy Beard. I don't know.
Yeah. He was like, but it's really funny. You should check that out, Dylan. You think? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm also going to 10th grade. Yeah, I'm 15 too.
Yeah, he's the youngest. He's the baby of the group, despite his voice and his size.
I'm also the biggest.
So you're like the tiniest head right now. Like,
Yeah.
either move the camera or
Just the floating head.
yeah. I know.
Wait.
You're all right.
Okay.
There we go. I just want to see you better.
Okay.
So who's next?
Yeah. You go next. You talk.
Dang it. Okay. So what was the question again?
Just
I
your
mean,
name, what you're doing right now, how you got into D&D.
Okay, so my name is Marlon. What I'm doing, I've just been in school, just stressed out about all that. How I got into D&D, I mean, pretty much they kind of introduced it to me. I mean, I've always heard of it, and I've always seen like streamers play it, but I never really get a chance to like sit down and watch it because like the sessions are always too long. So I never really had the time to do that. But it's always been around, but hanging out with these guys is just it's pretty much brought me in there.
Yeah,
it's pretty fun. I like it.
For sure. I think we've had a lot of players at my table for D&D come and play that would never even think of playing, but they're just like they see the community that it is, and they're like, you know what, I'll give it a try. And some of those people have like stuck at the table with us. So I think the biggest appeal is playing with friends, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Josh.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, first of all,
the same thing for me. I don't know. I'm looking at it like clockwise.
Yeah. We have no idea. Like everybody's a little different. I'll just say, I try to make it brief. I never make anything brief. I've always been interested in D&D. Like even as soon as I knew it existed, I think it was like randomly at a bookstore. I saw like the Monster Manual, and I was like the artwork, and my parents, who despite being very educated, also super gullible, and for the whole satanic panic, my mom flipped out, was not allowed to touch it, was told it was evil. And but here's the thing: the same parents who told me not to do that, I had a dad insist constantly that I read The Once and Future King, which is literally about all of that. It's like, knights going on a quest and fighting a witch and fighting a dragon, but but D&D is evil.
Yeah, that's
like it's sort of like maybe you should educate yourself. But anyway, but like, and I always, and for a long time, I used to just read the books. And what I mean by books, I don't mean the novels. I would actually read the gaming books and create my own party because I didn't have anybody to play with. Mm-hmm. And then basically once my kids got old enough, I forced them to play. So I was like, because I didn't have any adult friends who could play with me. So I was like, I'll make my kids play with me. And but I didn't. But for me, I never really played until after watching Critical Role, and I used that almost like lessons on how to play.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because and it was like shortly after that I made them play, and Yeah, like all of them are more or less like casual players.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I mean, that's basically the short version of how I got like loving D&D, always decades of wanting to play, and then
it's
finally getting around to it.
My grade school used to have like a really small library, and they would have people donate books to it. And I guess my librarian just didn't vet any of the books that would come in. So they had I was in grade 3 or 4, so I must have been 8 or 9, and they had a monster manual.
I think the same way. I think it was second edition that I saw.
Yeah. And I don't know if you guys have ever flipped through the monster manual, but there's some truly horrifying images in that book, especially as an 8-year-old. So I was just, but that definitely got me interested in too, because it kind of like implanted this idea of like what is D&D in my head.
Like it wasn't just a picture, but like these things, like they wrote about them, and it's actually something I miss, like compared to the 5th edition, all from the 2nd and 3rd edition. The 2nd and 3rd edition treated them like they were actual beasts. Yeah. Like there was a full verbal description, and then like their biology, and like all just like It's almost like, are they real?
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Trinity, you go.
So my name's Trinity. I play Aya. I got into D&D basically same way Dylan said. We started a game, and my other brother was in it, but he wasn't that into it. Mm-hmm. And I played more of like a cool character, like someone. It was like a dark elf, and like she was like mysterious and stuff. And then when we started a new session with everybody else, I realized I didn't really want to be cool because it was kind of boring. I wanted to be someone more silly, so I chose my person, which it's kind of just based off me, like what stuff I would do. Yeah. And that's a lot more fun to be someone that like I already kind of am.
Well, I was to be honest, Aya does sometimes seem like the most reasonable member of the group, at least from what I've experienced in the podcast so far. And like, not necessarily like she'll like fix the situation, but she'll look at the other party members and just be like, what is going on right now? You know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas like, and also I'll say to Dylan and Malcolm, you guys play the Warforged so well. It's just like, you guys are literally just like walking through life, like just learning off every experience like a Warforged would, right? Because a Warforged is not used to human civilization. So I just, yeah. And then Mary Jane is just running around.
Yes.
He's out there.
Yeah.
He's there.
Cool. Malcolm.
My name is Malcolm. I got into D&D just because, everybody else played it. I've been friends with Trinity for, 6-7 years now.
Yeah.
I'm not from North Carolina. I'm from Buffalo, New York. Mm-hmm. So when I moved down here, she was like the first person that I started talking to. And then I slowly met Josh. And now I just I think I like playing it the most just because I get to hang out with everybody.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just a mix of that, and like Dylan said, just using your imagination.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's fun. Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I found everyone's Instagram. I just wanted to check you guys out. Did you graduate last year?
Mm-hmm.
You did. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Cool.
So I realized that sooner or later the show's just going to be Teenager and Troublemakers.
Yeah. Yeah. One teenager and a bunch of troublemakers. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Okay, so we got to know you guys. So now I want to dive a little bit more into your characters because I think what's great about D&D is you start off with the very base idea of what your character would be like, but it's your interactions with your friends that really change your character. Like, for example, like Aya kind of being like, oh, what's going on? You know what I mean? And Beta just kind of being really like fascinated by certain things, but then just like being like, whatever. And then, just like, I just really love how the characters evolve in D&D. So what were the inspirations behind your character? I know Aya talked a little bit about hers wanting to kind of play a little bit more herself, but yeah, let's start the same thing. Let's start with Dylan. What was the inspiration behind Galactus?
So, cause I was gonna play like a regular bugbear, I think, barbarian, I think.
You the game we had before, we actually killed off your fighter because you decided you wanted to be a bugbear barbarian.
Yeah, I was gonna be that, and then I seen Malcolm was a workforce, and I was like, oh yeah, let me steal that idea. So I'm gonna
which is what Malcolm accused you of. You're
Then
like,
I said,
nah.
and then I was like a big metal dude that came from space, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna name it Galactus.
Great,
But
great
Dad
name.
said-
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, Dad said there's this superhero named Galactus or something like that.
Villain.
Well, a
Very-
villain, yeah.
very-
Just so everybody knows, Dylan did not borrow. Dylan doesn't pay attention to comic books or Marvel. He had no idea there was a thing called Galactus.
Oh, he didn't know that Galactus was like one of the most.
Yeah, he literally just came up with that name. I was
I
like,
didn't know.
That's
But yeah.
hilarious. That's
And
great.
I built my character because I just think like he's cool. Like it's a big metal dude that
Yeah.
turned red.
do a lot of damage for sure.
Yeah.
oh yeah. By the way, the podcast where he is and where none of you are level 3 yet, so that means you haven't gotten your all y'all's specialty stuff.
Yeah,
None of you
yeah.
have reached that yet.
No, I still have my
don't
rage.
talk
right?
about that yet.
I
Yeah.
still have my rage, right?
I know, but yeah, you're what
Oh.
happens when you rage is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
So
Oh, it's not that far. Okay.
I'm actually that's that episode is what I'm working on right now. I'm editing
okay.
it right now. The one where you guys all level up to level 3.
I was going to spoil everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Mary Jane. What was because you definitely have the most. I would say the most like unique character.
it is
how
out
small
there.
your character is, right? So, what was the inspiration behind Mary Jane?
All right, so for Mary Jane, I mean it's pretty simple. We were just like going through like the different races and everything like that, and I'm pretty sure it was like, what is it when someone makes it homebrew?
Homebrew, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, someone made their own little race. It's just little mouse folk,
Yeah.
and so I decided to go with that because Mary Jane, it was my hamster that I had before, and she passed away recently.
Mm.
So not recently, but like a while back.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I'll just play as my hamster, Mary Jane. You know?
Nice. Yeah.
And,
And
so
you made her a druid too, which was
yeah,
perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, so it was just basically me wanting to play as my hamster.
That's great. Love that. Trini, I mean, I know you talked a bit about Aya, but so Aya is a tiefling
Monk.
right?
Yes. Yeah, I chose monk because I was like, oh, I want to be the avatar because I thought of like all the elements
Amazing.
and I was like, yep, I want that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I chose that. I know I didn't want to be human. I wanted to be some kind of like creature. So I was like, I chose tiefling. I like the horns. I like the designs. Like I like that kind of design, horn and tails.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I chose that, and just basically from my last character, I was just like, yeah, they look cool, but I can't really play that person. Like I couldn't really act as them well. So I was like, let me just be someone that's more casual, more chill than the other one. The other one was just so like mysterious and brooding, and I was like, I don't want to do that.
And
Yeah.
edgelord.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like it. Playing as her was just like, that's not me. I want to be someone else.
Sorry to interrupt, guys. So I just got the 10-minute notification. So it will probably just cut out like at a random point. So we'll just I'm pretty sure I can just restart the meeting. You guys can re-click the link.
Start a fresh meeting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cool. Beta.
I don't know where the inspiration for my character came from. The design is obviously like very Ultron based.
Yeah.
But
And Destiny.
yeah,
Yeah.
very EXO based. But I don't know. I wanted to play a character that was, first of all, Warforged. The idea of a Warforged is like super sick to me. So I was like, I'm gonna try that. And then Dylan was like, oh, I'm gonna try that too.
Oh,
Yeah, because weren't you trying to be secret about yours at first because you knew he would steal it?
Yeah, I was. I was like, don't tell anybody. 'Cause I don't want anybody to know. And then Dylan was like, oh, I want to be a Warforged too. So I was like, okay. Well.
Yeah.
But the idea behind Beta was just, I mean, even down to his name was just, he's just clueless. He's just, I just wanted him to be some form of like his name installs like a beta male. So like he doesn't really know much, but yeah, that's what I was really going for.
And I think that's cool too, because that actually sets your character up for a lot of really cool character development, right? Is like you're using a name and a design before you even really play the game to set yourself up for something. And I when I play D&D, because I DM a lot, but whenever I get to play a character, I always like to make a character that has a handicap, like there has something that makes it weaker than the rest of the party, but that you could play to it. Like I played an alcoholic dwarf once that like I made the DM have to make me roll like Constitution saving throws constantly to try and like and just in fights I would just like break down and like run away because I'd just be like, I can't do it, I need a drink. You know what I mean? So I think that's so much fun, is like giving yourself, like I kind of Trinity kind of said, Trinity said like playing a really cool strong character is fun, but that can die really quickly, you know what I mean? And wanting to play a character that's a little bit realer and, you know, just adds that fun element to it. Yeah. Although being a Warforged barbarian, that's, you know, that's got its perks, especially in higher levels for sure.
Yeah, they're constantly discussing at which level, like at what levels, who's the strongest and who would win in a fight.
Yeah.
So we pretty much decided, and once everybody hits 5th level, we're gonna do like a one shot where it's just everybody fighting each other.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Oh well, it's funny too because druids, when you get to level 20 as a druid, you pretty much become immortal. And like that's what happens in Critical Role, is one of the characters gets level 20. So that's why druids start off with such like a casual class, but the higher level you get, you're like, oh my god, this person's immortal.
That's the thing though, he's not gonna win. He's not gonna win.
Yeah. Not right now. No, definitely. Have you guys ever done like PvP? Like ever pit your characters against each other? No.
Not seriously. No.
Not seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. We'll probably, like when they hit 5th level, we'll probably do a special watch that is just that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in the game itself, I mean, it's usually like playful, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I want to snatch something from this person, or you know.
Yeah. Like yeah. Exactly. Cool. Awesome. So what was the idea behind the podcast? What was the inspiration? Like how did I mean, were you guys playing like for a while and then you guys started recording, or did you guys the first game, did you guys start doing the podcast right away?
I mean, I'm probably the best person to answer that. Originally I wanted to either stream or just at least record and play it, but really what it boiled down to is I just didn't have the money for the equipment. And it was cheaper to buy all the equipment for just the podcast versus all the cameras that would be needed for because I don't like doing stuff half-assed. I'd rather do it full-assed. And so and I was able to like really get good equipment for recording versus I would have had to really skimp when it came to like recording. I mean, like visually. And so that was the main reason it became a podcast. But this particular game, from the ground up, was intended to be a podcast. Yeah. Because our first game, where they kind of learned how, like, we didn't even play that often, was Lost Minds of Fandelver. Yeah. And but it was really soon after that where like they kind of like, and the only person who didn't play that at all was Marlon. Mm-hmm. I was like, hey, we're gonna do this podcast. And I tried, actually, really, really tried. Ideally, I was trying to run a game for them and a game for like my quote-unquote adult friends. Yeah. None of my adult friends would commit. None of them would like. They were, you know, weren't taking it remotely seriously. Which, you know, and I'm just like, you know what? I'll put all my energy into this game with my kids because they're a captive audience. They don't have a choice. Yeah. Sure. But yeah, like so. Yeah, this game was, in fact, and I haven't decided when I'm going to release it. There's actually, well, I'm using it in a different definition, but but for each one of them, they got what I called a zero session, and not like in the sense of we built their characters. They each got a session by themselves, their essential like origin story. Nice. And then there was a 0.5 session where one of them would meet the other player, and then that in the first episode was all of the two small groups coming together being the one big group. So they each of them kind of knew their character from play before the actual first episode. Oh, that's cool. Instead of like, so I wanted it to be a little bit like, so each of them, you'll hear it throughout the podcast, they all mention stuff that happened before the podcast even started. Yeah. And I'm hoping that kind of hooks people to where like, oh, I want people to demand and ask for those other sessions, which I have recorded.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's great. Yeah. And how did you guys feel coming to the table? I mean, I know you guys have talked a little bit about, your experiences before with D&D, but like what are some things that you guys have found to be like a learning curve for you? Like even just like using your imagination or role playing even, has that been a challenge?
It's just the whole learning. There's so many like spells and they make fun of me for it a lot. I think it kind of
you're a sorcerer, dude. That's not an easy class to play.
That's why I'm trying to explain. But
You have like 3 spells though.
Yeah, but
at the beginning,
you got to figure out like what spell applies where, and what do I want to do in this situation? What do I want to do in that situation? But it's just, I think that fits a lot into the beta character himself, because I just imagine like when I'm taking my time and I'm trying to figure out a spell, I just imagine him standing there like not even paying attention to the fight, and then he just like, oh wait, I gotta do something, so he just But I think it's the whole when you say learning curve, I think it's the whole learning curve of learning like D&D and the mechanics, and because there's just so much.
The rules are endless. I've been playing for like 7 years and with my friends, and we'll have like 2-hour debates on like the wording, and that's the one thing about D&D that is hard. I don't necessarily want them to change it, but it's hard, is that the wording sometimes leaves room for huge division, right? Being like, no, you can't do that. Yes, you can do that. And I feel like, and Josh, I won't speak for you necessarily, but I feel like as a DM, that's a hard thing to do, is to kind of regulate when you're going to let something slide and when you're not going to let something slide, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for the most part with them, I don't have that issue too many times. I know what you're referring to, but like, because I tell this all the time, even though I'm challenging them and I put them in dangerous situations, I want them to win.
Yeah.
So generally, if they come with something that's plausible but also neat and cool or creative, I'll let it fly. Like, it's like, oh, you're doing something that might be, and my train of thought just left me.
But what about the rest of you guys? What are some challenges you guys have felt? I mean, obviously besides the rules and stuff.
Honestly, probably like just remembering everything. Like, okay, I roll D20, but then I do what again? Because our games were like played once a month. We played them very far apart from each other.
Sometimes it'd be like 2 or 3 months in between.
Yeah, so we would forget what would happen. I'd forget like, wait, what spells do I have in? Wait, what can I do again? And I'm constantly asking like, wait, what do I roll? Like stuff like this. So instead of playing like once a week, like Critical Role, we played like once every other month. So it was really difficult to remember everything we're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. It'd be nice to like once to just finally learn, for me at least, all my stuff, just so I can like just do it all on my own. So, less time wasted and we just keep it going.
Yeah, for sure. What about you guys, Marlon?
All right. So for me, okay. So what would be the hardest thing for me? Because I mean, I kind of got all my spells down and everything. I never really. Yeah.
But if you remember where you were at, let's continue.
So it was like things we were having like difficulties with and everything like that. Well, for me, so they said like spells were like kind of like their thing that they have a hard time with. For me, I don't really like go through like my whole arsenal that much. So I'm like always sticking with the ones that I already know. So that's not really a difficult thing for me. I'd say a difficult thing for me would be like remembering events. That's pretty hard. Remembering people, and remembering my character's voice, because I'm like playing a girl character, so I'm like always I can't mimic the same voice for me.
Yeah, so, sometimes he'll start talking in his normal voice. I'm like, who is that? Are you sick?
I would just completely forget about voices and just do my own thing.
Cool.
Yeah, that's pretty much like my little things that I need to get better with.
And Dylan, what about you? What do you find the most challenging thing playing?
I mean, I don't know, cause I don't really have that many spells.
Well, they be more like just in general, like
like do you find the role playing like having to like talk to like, you know, other fictional characters? Do you find that to be challenging? Or, I mean, playing a barbarian obviously is in the early levels pretty straightforward. It's just rage.
Yeah, because
attack.
sometimes when I talk to people, they like get offended in the game, and then like, yeah. And my problem is that I'm always want to like try to fight something in the game too.
Yeah, there was. I think there was a part in the episode that I'm listening to right now where Galactus literally says that, like, can I go fight? And then the party's like, yeah, we just need to get this guy into a fight, like, please. Like,
Oh.
you know, like, the party's being like, if Galactus does not fight somebody soon, then we're gonna
going crazy.
Get antsy.
But hey, every party needs the wild card, right? They need
the button pusher. Yeah.
It's like where the plan is going so perfect, and then
Dylan has to
the
come
guy's
six.
like pulling out like dropping all a bunch of bottles, creating a bunch of noise. Yeah, so cool. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'll say that like when I first started listening to the podcast with you guys, there was never a sense of, and maybe this is just how much like good friends and how close you guys are, but there was never a sense of like that I felt like you guys like were actually just playing and not paying attention to the fact that you were on a podcast and that you were doing this necessarily for other people to listen, which you guys are, but it was more so like that you guys were so comfortable right off the bat on the thing. So I never, like, I guess, like, you know, for people sometimes, like, if it's the first time they've ever done something where someone's watching or listening to them, it can be kind of nerve-wracking, right? Like, just, but I never got that sense from you guys, just that the podcast was just super easy.
Yeah, I'd say I forget because I'd be making like inside jokes that only we know, and then of course I forget, like, oh wait, no one's gonna know what we're talking about because you know, yeah, we've all been like, we've known each other forever. I mean, like Malcolm and Marlon, and so we constantly say things no one else is gonna understand but us.
But again, back to my point, that's what kind of makes listening to D&D podcasts so great, is like listening to your guys' humor, you know? Yeah, honestly, like I believe, like, for me it's kind of like because you know, D&D, you kind of have to like get your mind into the world. So like, you know, I put myself in there, I just completely like kind of forget like about the outside a bit. So I mean, you can like it was a problem for us for a while. It was like you know, Josh would tell us like, hey, talk closer to the mic, because you know, we will always be forgetting like, oh yeah, this is a podcast. yeah, for sure. No, but that's good. I think, sorry, go ahead.
It's just that whole, like Marlon was just saying, that whole thing of like, I don't know, it's like once you're playing for a while, it's kind of hard to stop. That's why our sessions are like 6-7 hours.
For sure.
Yeah, but it's just, I don't know. It's like, it's kind of hard to stop because it's like you're just in there, and I don't get it. Like, I don't understand how my brain, like, it takes time for me after to like switch off from beta. So
yeah. That's true. We have like 2-hour-long conversations after the game's already over, just talking about it.
Yeah, no, I remember like when I used to play a lot as a character, I could tell my DM was starting to like wrap the game up, and I'd be like, no, I could play forever. You know what I mean? So yeah, I totally understand. So actually, speaking a bit about the world, this will also kind of transition the interview a little bit. And I know, Josh, that your world is homebrew.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely love, because as a DM, I love doing homebrew as well. Although with me, sometimes I create too big, and then my players never see half the shit that I've ever created before, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But so,
I mean, I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah. So why did you decide to do homebrew for the podcast, I guess? And, you know, where are your ideas coming from? Is it all pre-planned out? Have you written it all out? Or are you kind of letting the players with their stories of their characters kind of build your world? Like
that is pretty much what it is. To be honest, I don't remember. Like, I can already tell you, if somebody is really, really into just tabletop RPGs in general, they'll probably I'm not going to say it, but I'm sure there's people out there, if they just listen to just a few episodes, they're going to realize Krasmir is almost a very relatively famous starter town from another game system.
Yeah.
That I changed quite a bit of it, but I mean, it's like there's a lot of really recognizable parts of it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I do is I basically took things that I know I like and I enjoyed, and because remember I said for years all I did was just read these adventures, and so I know like where my favorite things were, and I put them where I know they would fit well with where I think it would fit well with the story.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the actual like home rule world, it's because when I let the kids make their characters, I was like, you guys make whatever you want, and I will make the world fit your character.
Yes.
I mean, it's not so much now, but later as the series progresses, you're going to see there's a lot of like technology and like the idea that like this world's going from like roughly magic to like slightly more like visceral like technology kind of world. It's solely because two players wanted to be Warforged.
Yeah.
And I wanted them to make sense. I was like, well, if they're a relatively common thing in this world, there needs to be an explanation as why, like, well, the world's used to things like this, or to a certain degree, or certain parts of the world. And so I absolutely changed the world to fit them. And I have created a lot of different places in the world. And the reason I did it is because eventually, and they haven't even gotten to this part of the game yet, they're going to get to more or less pick just like, it was like, what type of adventure do you want to have? Do you want to have a Wild West version? Yeah. There's a place for that. Do you want to have a swords and sorcery type of, or you want to fight, Gothic vampires? There's a place that there's different regions or basically different themes essentially.
Different themes. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. So like they have the freedom to like, eventually just say, this is the type of adventure we want to have. So you start heading in that direction and you will have that type of adventure.
And it's good to do that later levels too, because until you can really pick your subclasses and get your feats, then you're kind of just like you're an adventurer, right? And then once you get to those higher like 5 and 6, then you're the curated adventure kind of makes a little bit more sense, right? So I actually had a game where I played where I had a bunch of rogues, and there was a guy that was a gunslinger. Mm-hmm. And so I put them on they found a pirate ship that was intact, and they took it and they found a crew, and then it was just like on the 7 Seas adventure for the rest of the campaign, because I was just like, this is kind of just the direction that it went on based on the characters and based. So I love to hear that you had 2 Warforged, so you're like, this world is starting to transition into a kind of technologically advanced. Just because even like, and I think this is really great too within the world, is that people do react to Beta and Galactus, right? They're kind of like, oh, like. Yeah. In fact, I've actually, I don't even know if you two have even noticed this. I try to move away from the word Warforged, because in this world, that's not you're not the most common thing. And that's not the most common term either. Like a lot of people are like, a lot of times they refer to you as metal men, or because they're like, they don't know exactly what you guys are. Yeah, you're not unheard of, but you're also like, there hasn't been a war using you guys in forever, so nobody really thinks of you that way. Yeah. So, and just one more question for you, Josh. Is this your first homebrew world that you've ever made, or have you made others before? And this is kind of just The first one I made once again, this is other than the Lost Mines of Pandever, this is one of the first real games that I got to run. Okay. So it's the first homebrew world that I got to actually run for other people, and not just made in my own head. In your own head, yeah. Yeah. No, I know that, yeah. Yeah, because I've made, over the years, I've made lots and lots of stuff. I just, no one ever saw it or played in it. Yeah. And so for the players, what are one of your guys' favorite moments of Josh's world? Like, it can be a character, it could be a place, it could be like a tree that you saw that he described that was really cool. You know what I mean? Just a moment that when you were living through your character that you really enjoyed the world that you were walking around in. Yeah, and just so you know, just heads up, this might be a little bit spoiled, because I mean, some of the best moments probably happen at like a little bit later on. I'm trying to think of something I can spoil it. You can tell me the spoiler. Just try and cushion the blow as much as possible.
Okay.
We'll start with Marlon. Yeah.
That's kind of hard, because I'm not trying to like spoil too much.
Yeah. It could even just be an aspect about your character's history that you and Josh have talked about that you really, you know, like, but again, don't, you know, just don't worry about spoilers just for the sake of this.
So for I don't know, like, all right, so there's like certain funny moments where like I don't know if he met what's the shopkeeper guy, the
Oh, you guys, that's not even the podcast. It's not a big deal. It's for Roche.
yeah
Tell me
when we
about- tell me
first
about-
met him, just what's it called, the toothy grin.
Oh, the doorbell.
He smiles with a toothy grin.
I do this thing every time we go in the shop, and I always do this. I always
Both of you.
imitate his toothy grin.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's yeah.
And then other moments, mostly like I'm pretty sure others could agree, but like mostly the funny moments come from Dylan, because
Yeah.
like he
Yeah.
mostly just doesn't, like, he doesn't think about what he would do and just does it. And
You know what? I think he does know what he's doing. He just acts like it. Like, look at him
And then-
smiling.
One of the
and
first
later
I
on,
ever-
later on, you'll see that there's consequences.
yeah. One of the first things I said to Josh about Galactus when we were first corresponding on Instagram was like, I was like, that moment, I think it's the first episode, he
Yeah.
gives somebody a health potion.
After almost breaking his arm.
Yeah, which health potions are like so expensive and so rare, you know what I mean? And so I was like, I literally remember being like, what? Like giving, and the guy who Josh was playing was just like, oh my god, like thank you, you know what I mean? So I loved how Galactus, like that just seemed like something.
He does that a lot. He likes to cause chaos, but he also helps with the cleanup afterwards.
Yeah,
He's like, it's like, oh, that was a good tussle. Ah.
yeah.
It's like, yeah.
You saw I used to throw money at people.
Yeah,
Yeah, you haven't even started doing that yet. That spoiler alert. Yeah, he has this habit of like just tossing money at, like, oh, did I offend you?
some coins at him.
It's like a rich person just like, it's like, oh, you filthy peasants, I'm done with you.
Yeah. Yeah, so Dylan, you tell me, what's one of your favorite moments? One of your favorite interactions with your dad's world that he's created?
Well, sometimes, I don't think you haven't really got to these parts yet, but
Go
there's
for
like
it.
a few parts where like these like it's like Galactus solo ventures, like basically
We go,
Like-
yeah.
all of them are together, and I just like walk off and do something, and then
Yes.
it turns into I just do something stupid, and then like it's like a big adventure.
Yeah.
With consequences, yeah.
Yeah.
And then so their characters never know what's happening. And they're
Yeah.
just like, where's Galactus?
Yeah,
at?"
there's more than a couple times where it's like they just hear alarm bells going off, and
Yeah,
they're like,
yeah. They're
We're like, oh, we already know.
here, so 90% sure that he's
Yeah.
the culprit, yeah.
That's great though. That's really great. What about you, Malcolm? What's one of your favorite moments?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure you haven't gotten to this part, but it's once again, most of them are from Galactus, but there's just one, and I was literally like
Shaking.
on the floor, like crying, laughing, like I don't know if we've got to that part or if you've gotten to that part yet, but you're gonna be able to know what I'm talking about. Like once you're gonna be like, oh, this is what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But, speaking of my character, I don't think you've gotten this part either, but we talked to this lady basically, and she's like a fortune teller of a sorts, and kind of like it's just know I talked to this guy, and he's the way Josh describes him is very like intimidating and very like, and I don't know, it was just really cool, and my face the entire time was just like this dude's about to kill me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's great. I love that's like one of the greatest moments in D&D where you're actually worried for yourself almost, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, for sure. And what about you, Trini?
I say in my zero session, I learned of something that I don't even have the full answer to yet. So for me, it's kind of like a lingering, just like wonder, like, oh, what happened? Like I really want to know what happened. Something that has to do with me.
Yeah.
But I don't even know what happened. But you like learn about it in my zero session, and and I still don't. Yeah, I'm like that's some part of the reason why we're where we are is because I'm trying to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like a whole mystery for me, and I'm trying to figure it out.
And again, going what to me and Malcolm were saying earlier too is like setting your character up beforehand for something like that. It can lead to a lot of really cool opportunities to kind of like, grow your character out, and even if you want to like go against something I do with my players. It's kind of a little like intense. You don't have to do it, but with alignments, like if my characters do something that goes against their alignment, I will give them a moment to kind of reflect on it. And if they don't really see the wrong, then I'll change their alignment for them. Which it's not. It doesn't really change the game too much. It's not like it's going to give you like a -2 attacks or anything like that. But just in that sense of like if you're going against something your character stands for, then I'm not going to penalize you for it, but I am going to kind of make your world change a little bit. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. I was going to interject for just half a second.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Yeah. A couple of things. This is just off the top of my head. One thing about with Marlon specifically, there's it's further into the thing, but it's not a huge spoiler. There's the situation where they know there's a small bandit camp. They're going to go and deal with it. And Marlon took the lead on this 100%, literally an hour of game time, just planning the attack. And like all of them were part of it, but I could tell Marlon was like, no. And like he went through like 8 different versions of like, what if we do this? What if we And I basically just answered questions for the most part. I was just like,
we was planning for like the whole podcast.
We weren't trying to die.
Yeah.
They were classic. And one thing, it's a slight plug, but also Malcolm, I thought you were going to talk about. This isn't like a huge spoiler because you know about it. When I created rules for Mage Duels. You can actually go to the DM's Guild and you can get the rules for free.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
like I was actually thinking of the whole Mage Duels.
Not exaggerating, Malcolm like shaking during the Mage Duel.
I was legit like
terrified. I was really being bro.
And what's kind of neat is like throughout the podcast, you like I had a first iteration of the Mage Duel. It was pretty bad, and because Malcolm wanted to try it out, so I was like, oh, that didn't work. So the second time we played, I had changed it up a lot, and by the third iteration, it's really, really fine tuned. And if it hadn't been for him actually wanting to test it out, I mean, it might have been this garbage thing that made no sense.
Yeah.
And so, like, you got to see it change in, like, in real time, essentially. And
oh, that's cool.
And something that I just because, like, okay, like, when they were talking about how Dylan goes on his Galactus goes on his little solo adventures, I try my best that whenever there's a moment where the focus is on a single character, I've done this thing, and you'll see it in the podcast, where I try to find reasons, like, even if the characters aren't playing themselves, I give them someone else to play as.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there's going to be like an hour or two where it's focused on a single character. I'll make sure that like everybody has something to do to be engaged in the game.
Yes.
Yeah. And not just be a passive,
Yeah, exactly. That sometimes can be a challenge as a DM too, when you get to those moments where it's not everyone in combat, but it's everyone kind of like doing their own thing, or Galactus solo missions, or like all that. Yeah, and what I was gonna because with the Mage Duel, specifically with the Mage Duels, even though the only real mage in the group is Beta, I created the other characters that were gonna be the Mage Duels, and I let the kids go against each other. Yeah.
Was that man down there?
Huh?
With the Pennywise posting in the back, stressing me out. Had me up there thinking.
You love Pennywise. But yeah, like, and then when Malcolm was shaking, it's because it was him versus Marlon. And even though, you would think, hey, I'm going to help out a party member by not winning nope.
I was like, bro, please. He's like, no, I can't.
They were trying to kill each other. It was great. So I guess to answer your question, there is kind of PvP, but not in the traditional sense.
Yeah, not like I remember when we got to the end of one of my campaigns, the DM was just like, all right, he was like, every man for themselves, and we were like, what? And he's like, just fight to the death now. It's like, oh my god. So we went at it, but
no holds bar.
But it also kind of is fun too, because when you're fighting against a player, just even in that moment with Malcolm and Marlon, it's like you can kind of pick up on stuff about your character that maybe you didn't notice, like maybe a fault that it has in combat that you didn't know about, or maybe like a special thing that you could have used, right?
Yeah.
And then Malcolm and Marlon can talk to each other afterwards and be like, hey, like, maybe this would work next time, or vice versa. Or maybe you just be like, screw that, I'm not going to tell you anything. And just,
Oh,
but
he tried to kill me. He tried.
It was like petty revenge.
That was so. I was so determined to win, and it's just. I mean, you'll see. It's just.
Yeah. Well, now with this in mind too, I'll have a better picture of it. Okay, so the final part of what I wanted to talk to you guys about was the thing that for me really made you guys stand out was the animation, the art, and the comics that you guys are doing. So first of all, the party art is amazing. It looks so. Your characters look so badass. If you want to,
I just to do a shout out. And, the person who did the original art, she goes by Noisy Ghost.
Noisy Ghost.
Yeah, like you can find Tumblr, Twitter, cool. But yes, it's Noisy Ghost. Their stuff is amazing.
Yeah,
like, all of it's so good.
So, and you guys got that commissioned for your group. Was that right before you started playing, or had you guys already played a little bit?
I'm pretty sure we had obviously everybody had already made their character, and that's why I kept emphasizing all of them. Is this the character you want to stick with? Because like I'm spending legitimate money to buy these.
We're getting art of this, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and but yeah, I'm pretty sure we got the art way before recording. So we all of course I let the kids pick it, like they like all like little changes here, little changes there.
Yeah.
And but at the same time though, especially for you, Malcolm, your character's wearing stuff that you've decided during the 0 session, so I'm pretty sure it was before the 0 session though.
Yeah.
But, we kind of knew how he was going to find his clothes.
We had him drawn up, or you had him. You had Beta drawn up like you showed me like him basically naked, and then this was.
Oh, what do you want to put on him?
Yeah. You were like, what do you want to put on him? And I was like, stuff that I found in the 0 session. So
yeah.
Yeah. Then so I did all that, but and. I think that's it.
And then so besides the party art, you guys are doing the animation and the graphic design and the comic.
Yeah, I did the animation, and so it was my first time ever doing animation, and I as much as I love doing it, it was incredibly frustrating.
Yes, animation is I've tried it before, and I've just lost my mind, honestly. So
yeah, it's not so much. I realize now, like it's something it's just such a sharp learning curve.
Yeah.
And like the very first Mary Jane animation, which obviously from just an outside perspective, the simplest one, took me the longest to make just because I knew nothing. And I had to spend like almost 3 straight days just learning.
Yeah. And that's the one where Mary Jane's popping out of the grass and then.
Yes. Yeah. Just that little simple thing took me hours. Which now that I know how to do it, I can do it relatively quickly, but at the time I was like, how do I do this thing that's in my head?
But again, that's great that you guys are doing this like for yourselves with your podcast. I mean, like obviously getting like a fully done party art, that's something that is smart to commission, because it's good to go for an artist and to pay them. But the fact that you guys aren't really outsourcing anything else, like doing your own audio engineering, doing your own, like even just getting the podcast up. I mean, me and Josh talked about this a little bit when we first started talking, but how has that process been for you guys? Like, and how has it felt now that you're seeing kind of like the comics and stuff come out? Is it kind of expanding the universe for you guys?
I mean, I don't have as big of a part in the whole like background as Josh does, just because he wants to. It's more of a thing, like he wants to have it a certain way. So I'm just, I try to help, but I'm stressed for him sometimes. Sometimes he gets like really like stressed, like because a microphone will be plugged in right, and it's just constant thing. And most of the time it's not his fault. it's more the software's fault.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get
It
stressed
crashes.
for him
Yeah.
a lot of the time. But
Yeah, for sure.
it impresses me that he's learning so much. So that's,
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, real quick, Malcolm. I have not actually spoken to you. How do you like the premiere comic was a beta comic?
I mean, what did you expect? Honestly, what did you expect? I mean, I'm the best character on the podcast, so I mean,
Yeah.
it kind of had to be me, you know. I mean, think about it, the first fan art. I mean, come on now, what'd you expect?
Yeah.
No, but I do appreciate that. You know, the first fan art was me, and the first comic, you know, style thing was me.
Yeah.
I just think that's kind of cool. So, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And Trinity, I know you said that you were doing the panel art for the comics and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Have you just been doing that on your spare time?
Yeah, basically since I've gotten the iPad, which Marlon got for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since,
Loving boyfriend.
yeah. I just been using that because I always saw videos on Instagram of like people drawing on Procreate, and I thought it just looked so cool just to like do all that. And I never really drew digitally before. I always just use whatever like materials I had.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been using that, and then I was doing the comics and I learned from that. And yeah, basically in my free time, which I have a lot, but now I probably won't anymore because I finally got a job, so I don't have as much anymore, but I had so much free time. Yeah. Yes, I think Monday is like when I start, so
True.
the comics might take longer now, but yeah, basically I'm just basically as soon as I woke up and like ate breakfast, I'd go on my iPad and start drawing, and it would take forever because I'm like still learning, but it was fun just like messing around with it. And I finally felt like I was doing something, because before I was just kind of laying around playing games because I didn't know what to do. But now that I'm actually like doing something to contribute, I'm like, yay, I feel better.
Yeah, for sure. So do you guys have, I mean, obviously you tell me what you don't have to tell me everything if you guys have some secret plans, but do you guys have any plans on where, like, beyond the podcast? Did you guys want to get like video? Like where do you guys see it going? Or are you guys really comfortable with where it's at right now?
I am a very ambitious person, and I just want this to really like blow up. Like because it's just, I guess it's a combination of me really enjoying playing the game, and then me really appreciating Josh, you know, because I mean he's just been there for me in general, and then with Trinity being my best friend for so many years. I just want success for everybody.
For everybody.
So it's a combination of all of that.
Well put.
Yeah.
What about you, Josh? Oh, sorry, Trini, go ahead.
Oh, I just gonna like mention how one of the things I'm excited for when we start seeing more like fan-made stuff, like fan-made animations. Those are like always fun to watch when people make little animations for themselves. So if I see that for our thing, that's gonna be like so cool. I might like cry or something. That someone put their own time and effort into making something for us just for fun. That's just like so cool.
For sure. And Josh, what about you? Since you're the mad architect behind this all.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, the dream would, when people say, the last couple of years, whenever I've gone to a job interview, somebody says, "What's your dream job?" I'm like, getting paid to hang out with my children.
Yeah.
Like literally, like my happiness is being with them as much as possible. So. Yeah, and I mean not just my children on the I'm looking at all of my children. I consider all of my children. Like that's where I'm my happiest. And so if I could make that a living, like that would be the dream. Like and it doesn't even necessarily have to be this podcast, which I would love. Like I would love for us just to be together, hang out. Like I have, which I also wonder if that reflects me as an adult, that I enjoy spending time with people like literally less than half my age, more than actual adults. But I do. I just, I think we have fun together. I think we have like you were saying before, like our chemistry, like
it's
like
just,
it's like I genuinely enjoy spending time with them versus feeling like it's chore, because I know some parents they treat it as like their time with their kids like a chore.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if we because we do have a Patreon and stuff, which it's mostly friends and family who enjoy it so far. But I mean, if this could become a thing and we actually were able to just or not even like a living, just doing it regularly and knowing that other people are enjoying it also, like just that whole dichotomy, that whole back and forth, like I like that world. And and I've always been the kind of person where I enjoy being on stage more than I like being in the audience.
Yeah.
Like the first time I ever went to a comedy show, the entire time I was like, I'd rather be on that stage. So I did it. I started doing stand-up comedy, and but I don't even enjoy concerts. I love music, but I'm bored just standing in the audience watching somebody else play an instrument. Yeah. It's like I'd rather be the guy on stage helping with the curtains, just something. I want to be part of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so doing this podcast for me is like I'm behind the scenes. I'm doing something, and to be honest, I didn't necessarily need to be the DM, or like I would love it if someone else took the reins and I just got to be part of it. But I mean, no one else was gonna do it. So
yeah.
Oh, you don't agree?
I don't agree with that. I don't know if I can have somebody else be the DM, and then you just
no.
None of you want to try?
Well, I'll
be a DM, like me be a DM.
Yeah.
I'll say this: if you guys ever need a guest player, even if it's just for a random sesh, I'd love to jump in.
Oh yeah, that'd be
on
the road.
That'd be sick.
Just play the session for sure, because like I love D&D is my bread and butter, and that was one of the reasons why I actually wanted to start my whole idea with Worldbuilders with this, because this was something that like I saw you guys doing this, and this hit so close for me. You know what I mean? And I saw how much effort you guys were putting into not just producing something that was like just friends around a table. Like you guys were actually, there was art and there was the sound design. You guys were showing behind the scenes, and like that is something that's rare amongst podcasts when there are so many podcasts out there, right? So that's what stood out for me. You mentioned your Patreon. We got it like a 2.5 minutes, and I know Josh has got to rev up for work. So tell me about your guys' Patreon and your Instagram and like YouTube channels and that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just real fast, there's the YouTube channel. We're on Twitter. We're on, like I said, the Patreon. And it's just, if you want to support us directly, Patreon's great. But I mean, really, at this point, I'm happy if people are just listening and enjoying. And just, like, I can't stress enough. Like, if you ever wanted to be, like, on the ground floor of, like, getting to know us and talk to us, we have time right now to, like, every person who comments, we can talk to you. You can, if you give us feedback, I tell you right now, like just so you guys know, my most recent ad, I put it in Brazil. We have people insulting our podcast in Brazil right now. I'm not gonna say what they said because I had to translate it. But at the same time, though, I saw it and I was like, it's hilarious. I was like, I don't even mind haters because that means they're paying attention to us. So it's like, if you say anything to us right now, not only will we see it, we're gonna engage with you.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm open to like everything. If you want to, I mean, even if you say a suggestion, we can't do anything about it. I'm still gonna listen and I'm gonna care. It's just that whole thing. So, but yeah, we have to, and all these kids have their own individual stuff. I mean, you could follow them. And I keep saying kids, even though most of them are old enough to vote.
Well, I'm gonna do a quick video too, just kind of like introducing you guys and talking about D&D too, because I know not everyone knows a lot about D&D. So just gonna talk about the mechanics and stuff as well. But I'd love to we should have another chat at some point. I think it's going to cut out like any second now.
Literally, we have 1 minute, 9 seconds. Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, it was really nice meeting you guys. I'm glad I got to talk to you guys. Keep doing this podcast because I'm already a huge fan. As soon as I get, some money, I'd love to become a Patreon provider just because like I think what you guys are doing is so great and it hits so close to home, and that's why I wanted to showcase what you guys were doing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Like, I mean,
thank you.
We'll have to play D&D together for sure.
I'm taking it with that offer. I'm taking it seriously.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll keep in contact and we'll talk again soon. And I hope to see some more comics soon.
You will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you will.
Before the camera cuts out, I love you guys. I haven't seen y'all in forever.
Yeah.
I love you
We're
too.
on the other side of the country.
Okay, guys. Well, it was great to see you. I'm gonna clock out, but we'll talk again soon.
Okay, have a great
Thank
day.
Thank you.
Peace, guys.
Bye, guys.